Hey, can
Hey y'all.
y'all hear us? It appears to be a little bit of a delay. Can y'all hear?
I hear you. I
Yeah,
don't
I think
hear
there's
it.
a little bit of delay from the Zoom, but we're just gonna roll with it.
Okay.
Thank you all for joining our first live um for Let's Get Free Together. It's been a process. We appreciate you all's patience and um, know that it's been a moment. Do this. So ladies, are y'all hearing like the feedback after?
I don't hear
No,
anything.
no, I don't hear feedback.
You don't?
No.
Okay, I may have to mute myself up here. Okay, so this is Najla. I am a healer, teacher, life coach, wife. Not in that order, all at the same time. Co-founder of the Pure Life Sanctuary Retreat Center in Costa Rica. And I've got my two sisters here, Fatima and Queens Tay. They're gonna introduce themselves really quickly.
Peace, everybody. I'm Fatima. I'm your holistic health and wellness navigator for the past 20 years, just helping the community with the guidance and needed support um, to navigate the complexities of the healthcare system and getting the support you need holistically. Glad to be here this evening.
And I am, as she said, Tay. I am a intuitive reader. I am an author, and I'm also a master life coach.
Yes, so we're gonna dive into our topic. So sisters, I just want to ask you all, on your end, are you seeing, everything in real time
No,
as we're talking on
I
your
don't.
screen?
I don't.
No, no.
Like, are you seeing all of our faces?
Yes, we see the faces. Yeah.
Okay. It's just something different happening on my screen. So I'm gonna keep going.
Okay.
Apologize for the technical difficulties, y'all. It's our first time out. Um, so just want to tell a little bit about the Let's Get Free Together even topic, the title. Um, of course, as you all know, we're in a time where things are changing drastically, rapidly. People are experiencing health concerns, mental health concerns. People are in fear in regards to a lot of things that are happening right now globally. And we figured we wanted to have a community that we could get where we can share information, valuable information. Oftentimes, me and my queen sisters and others, my siblings, are having these very deep and important topics, and we figured that it would serve the overall community, the world community, to be having these topics in community. So let's get free together is let's get free um, from all the things, all the things that oppress and abuse and hold us back and keep us in fear and what in regards to whatever health, relationships, love, professional, all the things. And so we're not going to spend a lot of time. We want you all to check out our other videos that we have, on this channel, like, subscribe, share. You'll get other introductions, more introductions from ourselves on the first videos we have this year. So check those out. But we want to use this time to really dive in so we could, hear the audience feedback and, really, really be able to communicate with you all and share. So let's get free together, y'all. Let's get started. The first topic is really about so how are you contributing or not contributing to the masses getting free together? What does that look like? So my Queen sisters and I have been having the conversation to and realizing that one big part of changing what is happening collectively. So right now, what's at the forefront of a lot of in a lot of platforms and in a lot of spaces all over the news, everywhere else, is really blasting what we shouldn't be like. So in regards to ego, it's talking, it's showing us the ways that we shouldn't be. And so in order for us to really flip the energy, you know, all of us have to really work on ourselves because as you all know, the light collectively always extinguishes the dark. But it's not going to be effective if we're not conscious of our light, but also if we don't band together and focus on our power as opposed to the power of that we don't want, to be in power. So one of the things that we figured is really important for people to focus on in order to start doing that is mastering our ego. Queens, I just want to make sure y'all still with me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Before I start to talk a little bit more about what does it look like for us to master our ego, I just want to check in with you ladies and see if it's anything you all want to add, and then I'm just gonna dive into a little bit more about what ego looks like and how that affects us in our everyday lives and how we're contributing or not contributing to what's happening collectively.
Queen Fatima, do you want to
I
speak
don't
on
have
that?
anything in particular to add. It's such a huge topic. And of course, this is, like love, this topic can go on for series and we can have a part 1 through 99. So just for part 1, I'm ready to dive in with however you want to start.
Okay. All right. So ego, I believe that a lot of people are familiar with it being an acronym for egging God out. And so my Queen sisters and I have come to, because we've been working on ourselves in terms of the ego self. So the ego initially, you know, uh, was given birth as a means of protection. But then as we evolved as humans, it 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 took on a whole nother life of itself. And so it's more what the enemy could use or the negative or the opposite of that which is good to have us vibrate in a lower on a lower frequency, as opposed to of the light, like what we were created to do. And so for a lot of people, that may be explained in a different way. One of the ways that I could even kind of pinpoint, that it highlights, like, I'm Muslim. So in the Quran, it talks about the devil, thinking that uh, the devil could question like what God says. And so egging God out is even saying that being this way is really being the opposite of what the creator would like for us to do, or for we're created to do. So what was really helpful to me, and I'm going to share terms from a list that talks about um, our ego, which we're actually seeing shown blast out all over the news, in politics. This show is not about politics. This show is about us all tapping into our higher self so we can get free together. So I would like to share, it was really helpful to me to be able to start to work on those things that were really my ego, taking on a life of its own, as opposed to really being rooted in my higher self. And so when I was able to like pinpoint certain terms, it really helped me um to be able to look within and say, okay, that's not my higher self, that's my ego self. So I would like to share some of those terms, and then we're going to elaborate on them a little bit more. So reflections of big ego, which is, oftentimes people only associate that with, you thinking you all that, you being stuck on yourself, that kind of thing. It goes way further beyond that. So some terms for behaviors that reflect big ego, that ego that's out of control, that ego that we see on blast all over everywhere now, is arrogance, selfishness, being controlling, using sarcasm that cuts, having to have the last word, interrupting people and talking over people when they're talking, um, being critical as to discerning as opposed to discerning, being judgmental, blaming, which happens a lot in partnership relationships. Um, even having this superiority, that you're superior to others, being domineering, talking about people behind their back, backbiting, my way or the highway type of attitude, even being vengeful, you're gonna get back at somebody, you're gonna teach somebody, not to mess with you, and this is the way that you're gonna do it. And so those are all terms. When you hear those terms, and if you're interested, we will share the list. We can share the list out. We want you all to email us at Let's Get Free Together, all the words spelled out, except for the TO for together is the number 2 instead. So Let's Get Free Together at gmail.com. If you're interested in actually receiving that list so that you can start working on mastering yourself and your own ego, then email us and we'd be happy to share that out. The ego sessions are actually going to be at least 4, because there are different levels of ego. The opposite of the big ego is like the small ego, always being the victim, acting like, other people treat you like you're inferior, that kind of thing. So we'll talk about that in the next session. The next ego session. We're going to skip over. We're not going to do it our next time we broadcast in 2 weeks, but we'll do it 2 weeks after that. So Queens, can you all share a little bit more about ego and how we can actually begin to, once we pinpoint those things, how do we start um, beginning to change them? I'm gonna share out one more thing. I'm learning from being married a lot of things about myself. Because you have to learn how to work with somebody, who is different in so many other ways. And God is showing me myself in a lot of ways too, because your partner ends up being a mirror, that shows you yourself. And so some of those things are kind of hard to see reflected back at you. And so how do we, I feel like we're all babies in this and still, but the three of us on this platform have been conscious and actively working on this thing for multiple years, 3 to 5 years at least. And so, but it's I'm learning on another level how challenging it could be to change behaviors that you've been having pretty much, from your childhood. Or as adolescents all the way up through all of adulthood, because oftentimes, usually the children, up to a certain age, but it depends on your circumstances and your, upbringing, all of that. But yeah, so you all share some more about what people could even begin to do if they're in the beginning stage to be conscious of what is ego and then looking at self. I was supposed to play the song Man in the Mirror starting out. It's our first segment, so we managing multiple things. But that song, Michael Jackson's song, really was about, in order for things to change, we have to look at ourselves. And if we're each looking at ourselves and how we can be a better person, then as a collective, automatically, the vibration and the light in the world is going to magnify. So that was what he was saying back in the 80s. But rare people rarely really grasp like the depth of it. So yes, so opening up the floor to you, Queens, to elaborate on some things about ego.
Well, I can I can quickly say that one way to really recognize that there needs to be a change is through a challenging experience, and paying attention to that challenging experience. For me, real briefly, to be transparent, I actually realized that I needed to change some things after having two failed relationships. And so these relationships showed me myself, but I wasn't willing to look at myself until that second relationship because it became very abusive, very volatile. So once it became that toxic, a light bulb went off. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, what's going on? I desired to be in a healthy relationship. So for me, that I felt like that was the universe's way of showing me. If you're honest and transparent with yourself, you won't continue to look at the people outside of you. So I began to pray. I began to read a lot of books and ask for guidance on why can't I have a successful relationship. And I began to, well, when you ask for something, be ready for the answers. Okay. so, so there was things thrown in my path and I didn't ignore those things. So I got deep into my research and I read several self-help books and began, why can't I have a successful relationship? And the rude awakening was me. You know, these people come into your life to show you you. So it's like the universe is putting a big mirror in front of you through this person. Okay. Or for some people, through a job, through a family dynamic. The mirror is showing you you. So you need to own your part in it. And like Queen Naj said, begin to do the work as the light bulb comes on. Take those baby steps, having grace with yourself, forgiving yourself first, and then begin to do that work. For me, the baby step was meditating. Meditation showed me a lot of things about myself that I needed to change. When you can get quiet with yourself, you can really start to change your life. So I just wanted to throw that nugget in there. This is a huge topic and we can go on, but that's a baby step of where you can start. If you really desire something, you'll start looking at yourself. You'll start going within first.
Right. I think that's a good way, a good segue from Man in the Mirror and talking about reflections and us looking at ourselves and seeing the people around us, their reflections in ourselves, and even the things that we say, oh, I don't like that about that person. But it's something about them that's actually mirrored in yourself. So you do have to turn around and say, well, why does that offend me? So speaking of self-help books, I'm reading a lot of books. I read one by Dr. Wayne Dyer. He wrote a lot of books and excuse me, y'all, self-help, self-esteem, meditation, spiritualism. I think Hay House produces a lot of his books. But anyway, he wrote, I think, about 7 things to be important about how to work through the ego. One of them I remember is like to stop being so offended all of the time. Sometimes that first someone says something or does something and you take it personally and it's not even about you. You know what I'm saying? We just internalize everything, sometimes too quickly and thinks that someone has said something to personally offend you. So you have to look at yourself and be like, well, why? Why did that statement make me feel a certain kind of way? So that was because a lot of times being offended is what causes like counterattacks and people wanting to start wars and all this stuff for no reason. And you over here fighting and you don't even know what you're fighting for. And for me, I think I had to look at a lot in my relationships, the need to be right a lot of times because,
Mhm.
I grew up in a household and my parents was like, oh, do your own research. And so I'm just thinking about, okay, well, just don't really just let anyone tell you that, the word is engraved in stone if you haven't just kind of looked at it for yourself. So to have your own mind. But in that, I found that I always thought that, a lot of the stuff that I found was right. I don't care what you say. What I found was right. It's right. It's right. But, when you're in a relationship, you have to ask yourself, is it more important to be right or to be happy? You know, you don't have to be right all the time, even if you kind of know that you are right. You want to believe it, that's fine until you prove it wrong. But you don't always have to say it. You don't always have to have the last word. You can kind of give someone grace, especially if you know that's kind of the language that the person that you're dealing with, that's how they work. They want to be heard. Everyone wants to, feel like they're being heard. So letting go of the need to be right, the need to win, you know, feel like something is always a competition, even though, you grow up sometimes in a big family and you're naturally competitive, and you want to play sports and you want to win. I don't play just to be playing these games. But, when you're dealing with people and each other, it's not a competition. We're here to kind of hear each other out and give give everyone grace because that's what you want for yourself.
That so you just basically said the part about having to be right. Literally, statistically, divorced therapists
Hmm.
um say that that is the main like cause of like divorces, that one or other of the person, they just had to be like the one that was right. They
Yeah.
refused to yield, you
Mm.
know.
Couldn't let
Um,
go.
yes, and they literally said that's the main reason, that's the leading reason for like divorces.
Hmm.
Um, and so what you said about, is it more important to be right or to be happy? And that part to be right is really us just holding on for dear life our ego,
Yeah.
like but for what? Like what at the end of the day, what does it prove? Um, but go into like even like the blaming part, or the self-righteous part, which are all other, just other manifestations of ego.
Mhm.
So yeah, those were huge, what you all shared. Um, so I know for a lot of people, they may not be thinking about or recognize how us holding on to our ego affects our relationships, not only our relationships, but our growth. So, say for example, you're one of those people that is like you passively aggressively, because that's another word, that's another reflection of ego. You passively aggressively gonna make somebody else feel it if they wronged you in some type of way, or had the audacity. That's another thing that the ego self is the one that's, how dare they, um dare to correct me in front of other people, or you know not show up at my event, or
Mhm.
what, this huge stuff that puts you in this big place. And then so you passively aggressively then, and this ruins, like,
Yeah.
you know, a decades, and somebody not talking to somebody else because,
Mhm.
one of the other people, humiliated them in some way, or, and instead of them being the one, because the thing is like, I'm going to make you feel it until you come to me,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
until you come to me to make, so they both feeling the same thing and neither one of them is coming to the other one, you
Right.
know, um, so it's like these things affect, and it's just not just siblings, it's not just people in marital or other types of relationships. It also is friends, you
Right.
know, you know, um um we've been friends with one another, for well over 15 years. And there were different times amongst all of us that we had to move in our humility, in our grace, to be forgiving and be patient
Mhm.
and be honest, be vulnerable.
Mhm.
That's the hard part. That is the hard part for a lot of people. Um, I'm very comfortable in vulnerability, but a lot of people are not. And then
Most people
sometimes
are
you're
not.
not aware of how you're not comfortable in vulnerability, and it makes you hard, you know. Um, but yeah, to be exposed, and
Mhm.
then are your feelings gonna be safe with the person you're exposing them to? So you go to your friend and you say, I really miss you. I know we had a really big blow up, you know, and it's hard for me to even remember how it started, you know? And it's this ego part of me that wants to be like, well, she needs to apologize, or he
Mhm.
needs to apologize. But I really miss you. I miss our friendship. I miss what the love that it brings to my life, and the, how all the things it teaches me in a great way, and the fun and all of that. I miss that, So, but it's more important to be vulnerable of the light, than, because a lot of people won't move in that way because they're fearful of, well, what if the other person is like, screw you, I don't want to be your friend no more, but like people, like the saying that we're all familiar with, when they say it hurts you more, even to be unforgiving than it does the other person. So even if that, worst case scenario does happen to be the response, because we know that we also outgrow our friends sometimes, um, you still were, it served your heart and your spirit and your soul and the light in you more, to tell the truth and be honest about what you feel, instead of, because you also could have ruined a valuable friendship by not choosing because you wanted to stand in your ego.
Right.
So, um,
I
yeah. So
think
I just,
people have to, a big part of that, people hold on to, it's the ego is anger. A lot of people deal with anger. They don't know how to let go of it. Don't know how to work through it. Don't know how to talk about it, address it. Don't know how to be, angry and feel it and then let it go. So people want to hold on to.
oh, I think
Uh-oh, it's
the
to
Queen Tima froze for a
there
second.
she go.
Okay.
um,
Then you back. Go
I'm
ahead.
that. Okay, why do you want to be angry and hold resentment? And then that's, holding up the progression of relationship, whatever the relationship is, like you said, if it's work or friends or family. But when you're feeling that bit of anger, you do need to work through it and be able to use your words to tell yourself, you know, ask yourself, why am I angry? And, if you can't figure it out, then there's a lot of ways to work through that. Some people use art, some people use music, some people, go for a walk, some people use talk therapy, you
Mhm.
know, eat things that are healthy, drink some water. But those are really some, realistic ways to just kind of work through the anger that's messing with this ego that we all have,
Yeah.
because we all feel angry,
Yeah.
but we can't let it control us.
Right. And not normalize it. I mean, we have people that normalize anger and toxic behavior, and that's a learned behavior that you've witnessed and you've adopted in your mind. And now it's kind of like monkey see, monkey do syndrome. So you grow up seeing that behavior and then you become that behavior unconsciously and not realizing that, you know what, this is not me. This is something that I picked up along the way. But when we learn how to like be in our own energy, then we're on to something. Now we're operating in a healthier dynamic. If we don't like what we see in the mirror, like Queen Naj suggested, then we need to change that
Yeah.
behavior, you know. And I feel like if you spend more time with yourself, that is the healthiest relationship we can have. Spending that time with ourselves will let us see, okay, I like some parts of me, but are these parts of me okay for me to just continue behaving like this? It's not that you just dislike yourself, but it's kind of like it's like you reach in that stuff, right? You get down deep in that thing and you pick apart the pieces that don't belong there that's keeping you in a stuck space. And it's just like you're polishing that, like a vehicle,
Mhm.
for our men watching. You want to shine that vehicle, but on the inside, that stuff ain't even working. You know what I mean? If we get in that thing and dig deep inside, then I don't know why I'm using that.
That's
But
good.
if you
Yeah.
get deep in it. Pull the hood up. Look at all of the the pieces and the parts. Women too, we got some female mechanics, right?
Mhm.
Uh, we can really find the stuff that just doesn't fit. It's making the whole vehicle tear apart. We can't just slide by on an oil change no more. You know what I mean? We gotta take the whole vehicle apart and rebuild it from the ground up.
Yeah,
You know
I
what
think
I
you
mean?
just described shadow work. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's exactly what it is. You keep something, dig on in there and get
Yes.
get
We
deep,
gotta
pull
go
the
deep.
shadow out, the dark
Yes.
stuff.
Thank
You
you,
know.
Queen Fatima, for using that word, shadow work. Shadow. It's in the shadows. We don't see it. We don't even realize it's there until it comes up to the surface and destroys everything around you,
Yeah.
including yourself. So,
Good stuff. Good stuff. So one of the things that also just came up when you all were saying those things, was also about so one a key way to help you identify when you're dealing with egoic things, either in yourself or with somebody else. It's exhausting. Like, oh my goodness. So think about how it feels when you go with your friend who just flows. You know, when you hanging out with one of your friends, they like, oh, we can choose wherever to go eat. It's what would you like to eat? You know, or you do something you haven't talked to your friend in a couple weeks, a month, and the friend just reaches out and is like, you know, oh, how are things going? And then you tell them all this stuff that's going on, and then they don't judge you or get upset with you, you know, or you know those type of things because that's like a controlling behavior. Oh, you didn't tell me about this, or you didn't, you know. So think about that friend that's like that, and then the friend when you're hanging out, this is, you know, you gotta go where they want to go, you know, all the time, you know, and you know, they'll make it seem like they open, but then they shoot down every single thing that you say, you know, or that friend that you always like, "Dang, if I do this, or if I say this, or if I leave this person out, or if I whatever, I know I'm gonna catch it, you know, so I gotta, you know, that it's like one feels free and the other one feels like you got to do a whole lot of work just to keep that friend, you know. And so and
That's
so now,
that means you catering to that friend's ego though, because
right,
that's their ego. That's okay. I'm like, well, you
exactly.
gotta go do some work. You can't
Right.
be
So that's what
taking
I
on
was
it.
saying. That's a clear indicator
Okay.
of when you're dealing with ego. You
Okay.
know,
Okay.
yes, that's what I was saying. That when you're dealing with things that flow, it's not a whole bunch of judgment.
Yeah.
It's not a whole bunch because one of the other phrases was my way or the highway. You know, yeah, it feels free flowing. When you think of the friend, you be like, oh, I want to go to I love going to with this person. But then when you think of the other friend that you love, you know, and that you've been through a lot with, you be like, dang, I'm gonna have to you know, let me get myself ready, you know. so just you know, helping people to identify what in even in ourselves, you know,
Yeah.
because you know, being completely honest, as I dive more deeper into ego in its different ways it manifests, I see it in myself. You know,
Hmm.
I'll be like, dang, I can be that way, you know. And so it's that's the part. It's really challenging to like see it in yourself and then admit it to yourself and then work on changing it. Um, yeah, yeah.
But
Oh, and
that's
so
good though, Queen, that you can see that. Like I mean, until we get to the space where we can see it, we can't work on it. So
hmm.
it's awesome and it's amazing that you can see that. Most people can't. They walk around projecting. But
Hmm.
when you can see it, you're like, you know what? I don't like that thing about me. I'm gonna work on that, you know.
Yeah. That is a part of it. Dr. Wayne Dyer, he was also talking about the need of to be superior in like appearance or achievement or possessions and all that. You got to let that go. That doesn't define, who you are. So I can say, "Ooh, I got this. So I'm better than that person over there."
Hmm.
Or, I got
Yeah.
this on today. I look better, so where you going? Somebody
Hmm.
always
Hmm.
sizing somebody up.
Hmm.
So yeah, we have to let go of that and the need to have more and take credit and
Hmm.
have this certain, reputation,
Hmm.
always caring about, how I think he wrote something like you meet 30 people, you're gonna have 30 reputations. These 30 people are gonna think about you a certain kind of way. But just like that book said, what you think about me, that's not my problem. So
Exactly. Uh-oh.
oh Nige, what happened?
Uh-oh. We lost Naj and she should be tapping back in, hopefully.
Yeah. Do you
Must
think
have
we
got
still
a
on the live?
disconnect. What you say,
You
Queen?
think we still on the live if she got disconnected?
Oh, I know.
I think
I
we
don't
are.
know. I know, right?
But those are some good topics. I really like what you said.
Yeah,
I think that that's very important when discussing ego. But like, it's just such a huge topic with so many layers. But you
it
do have to start
is.
with shadow work.
It is. And yeah, and shadow work is a whole nother beast because
Mm-hmm.
that's the work you don't see and realize. But
Right.
also, an issue I was having before I started doing my shadow work was pride. And
Mm-hmm.
that's even ego, and people don't even realize that.
Exactly. Because she was talking
Yeah.
about the song Man in the Mirror, and I was thinking about Beyonce's song, You Got a Big Ego. Because a lot of
Mhm.
people kind of think, oh, ego means I have pride and confidence and this and that. But when you get down to it, the pride is the fall of a man.
Right.
So
Exactly.
we have to check
Exactly.
our pride. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that pride thing is that subtle beast. You know what I mean? It's
Mm.
like you're too afraid to tap into, well, not afraid, but like too boastful to ask for anything or be too vulnerable, like Queen Naj was saying earlier. All that's pride and that's ego
Mhm.
too,
Right.
you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I had to really work on and still working on it, but I think I'm not where I was,
Yeah.
but I'm not where I want to be. We all still working on ourselves, but
Mhm.
you definitely got to let go of that pride. That's not good.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's not good.
Hmm.
Firsthand experience is
Yeah.
not good.
Right. Right. I think
Yeah.
all of us, if you live long enough, you're going to deal with it some
Yeah.
kind of
Oh
way.
yeah.
And hopefully we
Yeah.
learn and get here so we can continue to grow.
Yeah.
Right. And to introduce something that we'll expand more, it'll be a whole show. But it just made me think of um so when Queen Tima talked about Wayne Dyer and what he was, it made me think of Edgar Tolle
Mm,
and talking about the pain body. And
Hmm.
so diving deeper, now this is when, like I said, it'll be a whole show. But part of the reason why pride and all these things even come about, it starts from pain
mm,
somewhere. It starts from that we've been introduced to pain, abuse,
Hmm.
neglect, verbal abuse, physical abuse, you know, all the things. And then we put up this protective layer, and so it's like, um, I ain't never had nobody to do for me. And anytime I really expected it, I was disappointed. So I got it. I could do it myself. I don't need nobody. You know.
Hmm.
So people also need to understand oftentimes that's really the birthplace of these egoic things. Because as I said in the beginning, ego's purpose initially was to protect, but it was like to protect when men were still fighting saber-tooth tigers, and it was like, oh, it might be a tiger behind that bush. Watch
Hmm.
out. But then as we evolved, it took on a life of its own. And
mhm,
it started to as so the acronym we know of fear we have used in the past was false evidence appearing real. We have now adopted the new because we're moving from focusing on the negative to focusing on our power in the light. So
Yeah.
our queen Tima introduced us to face everything and rise. So
Hmm.
that even really is a good segue into us, kind of wrapping up this portion of the show, and start wrapping back around from where we started. That the reason why all of this is important for us to master, especially in this time that we're in order for us to flip the energy and for the light to really be which it is automatically the dominant source, but we got to tap into it in order
Yeah.
for it to be activated. And
Hmm.
so we face everything and rise. So when you see things from that perspective, it's different from, oh, all this false evidence appearing real. I gotta figure it all out. I gotta decipher, what is what. But instead, we're focusing on our power. Um, and we know that fear is false evidence appearing real. But now we're moving into how do we face that, and we know that we're gonna rise regardless because we're of the light. And so one of the major things is that we have got to be aware of ego, where it manifests, how it manifests, and we've got to master it in order for us to flip the energy and really be a co-creator, all of us individually, of helping the world get free together. That, that is what is important about this topic, this platform, and us doing it together. So going to use that to segue into our segment of the show that's called Let's Get Free Together and Talk Tea. So my queen sisters, um, Tay and Fatima, are going to Fatima is first going to share about our tea of the day that we're going to talk about that um is going to help us to elevate by knowing something more about it. And then Queen Tay is going to tell us about another tea topic that is going to serve us well. So go ahead, Queens.
Yes. So speaking about operating from the pain body, my allergies have been killing me. But but one tea, an herb that has been helping y'all is elderberry. So that's a tea of the week. And elderberry has so many benefits, or the first one with allergies, it helps lower the histamine levels in the body. So because I was dealing with sneezing fits, and my sinuses was jacked up, I can breathe better. So it does help with sinus infections, respiratory infections. There's a lot of elderberry cough syrup that is made for, safe for children and the elderly. So it has vitamin C, vitamin A, which means that it is a great immune booster and great for the skin and healing wounds because of the many antioxidants in it. So it also has antibacterial properties and antiviral qualities. And that's why it is good to help with the respiratory issues, colds and sinuses. So I highly recommend it. Now, a lot of people will say, okay, you go and pluck some elderberries. Don't try to do that because the leaves and the bark by itself is poisonous. You got to know what you're doing. So I would buy it already prepackaged jar from an herb store. Don't be going out in the woods trying to get no elderberry unless you know what you're doing.
Yes.
So that's the tea of the day, y'all.
And you know what, Queen? I even found recently a elderberry vitamin C powder. And you
Ooh,
can just throw it in your water and shake it up. And girl, go
now
ahead. You
that's
got your two
nice.
in one.
Okay,
And
I'm
it
glad
doesn't
you
have a
said
bad
that.
taste.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
glad you said that. Thank you.
Yeah. But thanks for sharing the elderberry with us. I love
Mhm.
that. But if we want to, and we can also connect because as within, so without, right? So we're going to go ahead on and segue into our final tea topic, which is understanding that we're all connected energetically, universally, okay, cosmically, everything is one. And for some of us who don't really realize that yet, maybe we'll go back and create a show around that. But I like to look at the astrological. I am not an astrologer. Let me just say that, okay? But I like people tune in to CNN. I tune in to the astrology forecast as on a regular basis. Because for me, it's more important to look up in the sky and see what those planets are doing because I know they have a direct impact on our thought processes and how we operate down here in the earthly plane. So I like to tap in, y'all. Y'all looking at CNN, I'm looking at, okay, what these planets doing? And I do know that it's go time, y'all. I'm so excited. All planets are direct until May 4th. That is a great sign. And we've been feeling all this kind of drowsy, tired, frustrated, exhausted energy from this recent full moon that just left the building, thank God. But now, right now, going into next week up until May 4th, it's push ahead, move forward. allow your body to be light, ascend. We're getting ready to have downloads. They may be subtle, they may be major, but you're going to be wondering, okay, wait, did I just have a deja vu moment? We got spiritual gifts coming online, y'all. So a lot of people, we're like, okay, y'all over there like, what is she talking about? Some of y'all, but some of y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm saying, get excited. It's kind of like you're preparing your body for more light. That's all we're doing, ascending and being able to house more light. So that's right on time with what Queen Fatima is saying. Drink healthy teas. She said earlier, drink water, keep the body as light and as clean as we can. Fruits, vegetables, fresh if you can. And just eating light will help you anchor in that light more easier. And then you won't have those harsh ascension symptoms that you may be feeling. But I'm not a doctor either. So if you feel kind of like, what's going on, I'm dizzy, by all means, go to see a doctor, check it out. But when those doctors start telling y'all, we don't see anything, you're going to say, Tay said it. It's time to go, y'all. Ascension time. We leveling up. Okay. So get excited.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you, Queens. You all
Well,
delivered that very well. Um, so I've been trying to see um our chat if we I don't know what happened to my screen. So we're definitely still going live. I wanted to be able to try to address, any questions or what have you, um, from the chat, but I'm not. So it's Queens. Are either one of you all able to, um, like just pull us up on your phone to
yeah,
see?
I can do a test. Can you see that?
No, I just wanted to see if you are because you're seeing that we're still live, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I just
And
didn't know if you.
Nilo, my twin sister just chimed in and said that was a great show, ladies.
Thank you,
And
Carla.
I
Thank
see,
you.
yeah, and I also see King Munaj here, and he said, "Love this" with three heart emojis.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all, family support. Hey, Nalo. Can't wait to see you soon. Um, Okay, well that's actually good for this segment because we're close to an hour. We started at 6:35 Central, 7:35 Eastern. So in 5 minutes it'll be about an hour, and we were really trying to keep our shows to about no more than an hour. So I just want to share some tidbits of helpful information for us moving forward. And we know that our next shows are it was we had to get I for one, I'm just gonna speak for myself, had to get the part past the part of my ego that kept putting this live off because because it was just like we really gonna be in front of people. We really gonna, we mess up, we blah, blah. But then I just today, because I almost did it again today. And what I realized is that or and Tima too. Like we just gotta do it. We just gotta do it. It's because it's not about, getting it right. Again, getting everything right. It's also about the energy. We just really want to help and do everything that we can to raise the vibration on the planet because we know we got the power within ourselves to do so. So that's what this was about, and so I push past, we push past because they've got different things going on with them too. And so thank you all for the patience and bearing with us. And we know it's going to continue to get easier as it evolves. And we just really just had to start it. So we know as it evolves, our audience is going to grow and expand. And that's really more about serving. We just want to be able to serve more people because this information is valuable,
Mhm.
and we ain't charging nobody for it. This is a free platform,
Yeah.
So I want to share a couple things before we jump. That Let me get to my list. Um, let's see here. So we want to make sure another part of keeping things a high vibration is also about having fun, y'all. So everything, life is about balance. The essence of beauty is balance. So we don't want to have all our topics be the heavy stuff. We also want to get to the light and also free stuff, which is sometimes about, not sometimes, I'm claiming for myself more than not, to have more fun,
Yeah.
and so our next show in 2 weeks, because we do our shows once every 2 weeks, is gonna be about those songs from back in the day that you can remember where you were, or you can remember good times with them. Um, um, yes, and we want to talk about that. We want to bring up what the songs are. We're gonna play some of them, and we just gonna really just share those memories. And we want to do that with you all. So that'll be our show 2 weeks from today, Thursday, May 1st. We have been, leaning towards trying to have our show start at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern. As you see, this time we started a half hour in. Sometimes it fluctuates, but we will definitely be in touch about the actual start time. It'll still be one of those for 2 weeks from today, which is Thursday, May 1st, the very first day of May.
Already.
Throwback Thursday.
Okay.
Yes, Throwback Thursday, exactly. And if again, reminder, if you want to get the list for the Big Ego, email us at let's get free together with the number 2 instead of TO for the together part at gmail.com. And look forward to, you know, if people, as we delve further in, with the topics, there's some things that this platform, itself, people will want to probably get a little bit closer support in being able to improve things. So we will be sharing about, all three of us on here are coaches. And so further down the line, we'll be sharing, information where you can reach out if you're interested possibly in having one-to-one coaching with one of us amazing queens on this call. So look forward to that in the near future. And with that, we thank you all for joining. We're at an hour. I love you, queens, for pushing through for us to get free together. And everybody have a great and happy and safe weekend. We
Thank
love y'all.
you. Love you.
Thank you.